welcome back to WRPL, a podcast where we talk about all the things we are watching, reading, playing, and listening to. I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
And today we are talking about a big one.
The biggest of the year.
Yeah, definitely, I would say. It's a shame that it's like a week apart from Matrix. It just seems like we've had, what, 8 Spider-Man movies now? And it's like, give the Matrix a chance to just do its own thing, but I'm pretty sure Spider-Man's going to just step all over it.
Yeah, because the last Matrix movie came out, I think, a year after the very first one.
2003, yeah.
So we've had,
That's
all
insane.
them Spider-Man movies in the span of the same time as, all the Matrix movies, essentially.
Yeah. But in case you couldn't realize, we're talking about Spider-Man No Way Home.
That's the web sound.
Whose, though?
Oh, nice.
So, for anybody who has not seen this, like every episode we do, it's spoiler city. We don't care.
We jump right in.
Yeah. So, all right. How to start with something like this?
I have a lot of thoughts, and I look forward to talking about it. Where to begin? Who's to say? Well, I guess the first thing is, did you like it?
Yeah, I was positive about this movie. I think people are going a little crazy, though, saying this is the best Marvel movie, best Spider-Man movie. I think people are just so nostalgic for the things that they've loved before that they're able to overlook stuff, which I'm not saying this movie has a bunch of stuff that is bad. I just don't think this is the best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen. I would say Homecoming beats this as one of the best Spider-Man movie. That's probably like my favorite or second favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. And I had the same feeling when I saw Homecoming and Far From Home. I remember leaving and just being like, those were good, but I don't love them. They're fine. Mm-hmm. But with rewatches, like, okay, no, I kind of really do like these movies now. So I think I'll be more favorable with this with a second rewatch. But right now, it's like, yeah, it's good. I give it a B+.
Yeah, I was talking to someone at work about this earlier. It's like, part of me, for the sheer audacity of these people to make this fucking thing, I want to be like 10 out of 10. But the film fan and critic in my mind is just like, I just don't know about this movie. Because, and in full disclosure, my theater going experience wasn't as positive as I wanted it to be.
Okay.
There might have been a birthday party of like 10-year-old girls who clearly didn't care about this movie.
That's a shame. What time about did you see this?
1:30 in the afternoon.
Oh god, that sucks. That's like a guaranteed good time to see a movie.
And I think if it was in like a huge theater, it might have been okay because there would have just been enough going on and like there's separation. But it was a small theater, so anyone who like picked their nose, I'd be able to hear it. So
that's
anyway.
A loud nose picker.
Yeah, it's a weird vibe. But so the whole time I was like kind of annoyed. Like it wasn't bothersome enough to really like ruin the movie. Like I heard everything and I saw everything, but it was just like a constant like gnat in my ear essentially. And I wanted to say something, but the dad or whoever they were with had like 200 pounds on me, so I didn't want to get beat up. But anyway, I agree with you. I'm glad we're on the same page because I was worried that you were going to be super into it and me kind of being like, but honestly, I might have I'm not saying it's a better film, but I might have had a better time watching Shang-Chi than this, to be honest. And I know you didn't really love.
Yeah, I would not agree with that.
Yeah.
No.
Because I think the biggest problem with this movie is it doesn't have time to just sit with anything. It's just, here's a thing that could be the movie itself, but then it's just the first 10 minutes. And then here's another thing, and here's another thing, and here's another thing. And it's like, I don't know. We'll get into it. It's just I don't really know how to feel about this movie, and that's what's bugging me the most.
Okay.
So
I can agree with that. The first thing that I thought when I got back into my car was, who cares about all these villains? Like, get them out of here. I just want 3 Spider-Men just joshing about. Like, no stakes, just three Spider-Men talking about their past experiences and the differences between them, because all that stuff was the best stuff.
Yeah, I will say that everything with them just talking to each other, great, fantastic. Andrew Garfield, hilarious. Mm-hmm. Honestly, after watching this movie, and maybe it was designed this way because now I've heard rumblings that they may want to do other stuff with him in the future. So they're like, we're going to give Andrew some more because we know we're not going to give... Toby's done. He's just kind of here for the paycheck and everything, which is fine.
Yeah.
And Toby was fine in this. Mm-hmm. But Andrew Garfield stole every scene he was in and just solidified, not only is he the best actor in this movie and one of the best actors working today, he's just the best Spider-Man. Like, Tobey Maguire was my Spider-Man because that's who we both grew up with, but Andrew Garfield is now my Spider-Man because I just think he's better.
It's just a shame that he's in such bad movies.
Yeah, I think the material he was given was not right for him because he's fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. Him and Willem Dafoe. Yeah, Willem Dafoe is just like having a gay old time, doing the cackle and the craziness.
Yeah, a lot of stuff I saw, everyone was like really praising William Dafoe and Willem. What? God, I am so fucking tired of you.
You're just tired in general, and you're just taking it out on me.
Oh god. Anyway, Mr. Dafoe was so fantastic in this movie, and I think he was having a great time, and it was enjoyable to see him like do this crazy stuff. But I don't think his performance was like,
I don't know, being able to just like turn it back on after all these years.
Yeah, and I will say I think they did a good job of like de-aging these guys because they were being pulled from the scene right before they died, essentially. And like it would have been jarring to be like, oh, you were pulled from the movie 20 years ago and you look crazy old.
Yeah.
But I think they did a good job of hair coloring or the digital effects or whatever they did. I think they all looked.
Yeah, it wasn't distracting at any point where you go like, ooh, that was a little wonky. You just kind of, I believe that they are still the same age as they were in the 2000s.
I think the other thing that was kind of holding this back was nothing in this movie surprised me. Like, if you're people like us who's like reading everything and speculate through the roof leading up to this and all the hype train, like, you knew Andrew was coming. You knew Toby was coming. They announced all these villains were going to be in there, so why the fuck wouldn't the heroes from those movies be in there? And the only thing that was kind of surprising was, but I mean, you called it, was the Aunt May dying thing.
I sure did. I just knew it. Had a feeling.
So watching this movie was just like, oh, that's cool that that's happening. That's cool that's happening. But like, it wasn't surprising, and maybe that's why I just had a good time with Shang-Chi, even though like it may not be as good of a movie as it. It's just like I didn't know anything about Shang-Chi. It was all new.
Sure.
I definitely didn't see the Dweller in Darkness showing up at the end. But there was just Kung Fu's cool. I think this is Tom Holland's best performance as Spider-Man. I think they definitely let him act in this.
Yeah. But going back to what you said, I would love to be able to experience this movie without my brain looking at trailers and breakdowns and things like that and spoiling myself, because I think this would have absolutely blown my mind to see everything that happened without any knowledge. But yeah, there was even the Daredevil scene. It's like, well, they announced that he was going to be returning, and there was rumors that he was going to be in this movie anyway. So when he showed up, my audience gasped. They were so shocked, and for someone like me, it's just kind of like, yeah, I knew this was coming. This is cool, and I love it, and I'm glad to have him back. But there's no surprises, so I can't think of a single thing that was shocking about this movie. Nothing surprised me.
I'd say the only thing that, I was like, oh, was Toby getting stabbed at the end. And then that just annoyed me because they just like brushed it off immediately.
I've been stabbed before.
It was just like a thing to get a gas for like half a second. We're like, oh, we gotcha. But the fact that he just got up was like, yeah, I've been stabbed before. It was just kind of like, the fuck? Like, then don't do it.
I really thought like they were going to kill him there. And it's like, oh, that's surprising that they're like, we're putting a coffin in this nail. Jesus, we're putting a nail in this coffin, and this one is gone. But then they just kind of whip that back real quick and like, no, it's fine.
Yeah, it was basically just used as a quick shock moment, and then you're in a serious amount of pain, right? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, totally. It's just like a throwaway joke too, and that part I didn't like. And but yeah, back to the Matt Murdock thing. Once again, same boat. It's just like I knew it was coming, and it was great to see him, and it's cool that they're actually bringing in the Netflix characters. I just wish like I had seen this first as opposed to the Kingpin stuff on Hawkeye, because once you saw the Kingpin stuff, I mean, obviously this movie came out in other countries and everything beforehand, so this is their first viewing. It's like it would have been nice to see, the hero that we love show up and go like, oh shit, like they're bringing him back, and then the following week you get, or a couple of days later you get the Kingpin. Sure. And it's like, oh okay, well like now it's all working or whatever. I think this movie would have been better it's easy to say, but it's like I kind of wanted this as the series because there's just so much going into it, and you could have really explored a lot of the themes in this movie. Sure. Versus just like, all right, we got to throw in a bunch of shit. I mean, I get why it's a movie because that's where the fucking money is. But yeah, they just needed time to sit, I think, on a lot of stuff. Yeah.
I think one of my favorite jokes came from the Daredevil scene where like he catches the brick and I'm like, how'd you do that? And I'm a really good lawyer. All right. Other positives. Let's see.
Just Spider-Man's hanging out.
Yeah.
I mean, did you have a favorite scene or moment with the three of them? Or?
Probably the web shooters where, Tom Holland gets some web cartridges and Tobey Maguire's just like, what's that from? And then they're all grossed out that it just comes straight from his body. I mean, I didn't need them to keep going and it's like, oh, does it come from other places and stuff? Like, that's a problem with a lot of Marvel is they don't know when to just stop their joke. Yeah. And, but I'm glad it was brought up. And I like the talk of them talking about their villains and like who's the craziest villain, because that's all I want to see. I just want them to go like, well, do you have an Adrian Toomes in your universe? Like, oh no, I don't have that. Oh no, I do have a guy named that. Well, keep watching him because he's going to turn into a big metal bird villain, and just comparing notes. And we got a little bit of it, and that's good. But that's all I want. I just want them dicking around and talking to each other.
Yeah, I have moments I like specific moments. I was like, oh, this is my favorite moment in the film. But I think the best scene is just them in the science lab, like doing Peter Parker shit. Yeah. Like actually doing science, which like in the first movie, it's like you got that Peter was smart, but it always just seemed like he was just smarter than a bunch of dumb New York kids. Yeah. Because it's not like he was in an advanced school. He just went to a normal high school, and then he goes to college, but you never really see him do anything in college because he's so busy being Spider-Man. So you never really get to see Tobey Maguire be smart too much. And then the Andrew Garfield one, you get a little bit of him like designing the web shooters and everything, but I could be wrong, but I don't really remember him doing a bunch of smart stuff either, except for like, oh, well, electricity conducts this or whatever. So
yeah, it's you see him making the web shooters in Amazing Spider-Man and then adapting them to fight Electro in the second one. Yeah. But that's about it.
So I don't know. I just kind of want to see Peter Parker be smart, and you never really get that in any of the versions. So at least, and not that this is some grand scene of them being like geniuses or anything, but it's just nice to see them do and together. It
kind of is, because they're able to like cure 5 crazy monster men in an afternoon. So, and that's one thing I do.
Thankfully, because of Tony Stark's magic device that makes anything at all the time. Yeah. But yes.
I didn't love the idea. It's like, we have to cure them and then send them back, then they won't die. But is that true? Because like, for all we know, Green Goblin was about to be impaled by his glider before he came in. Then he's going to get transported back as a good person and then die. And Doc Ock was he drowning at the moment, or was it right before he went in the water? It's kind of unclear with how this multiverse stuff works, but I don't love the idea of let's cure them and then they won't have to die.
Yeah, I think if you really pick apart this movie, it's fine. Like I don't need to pick apart the movie, but if you like kind of think about the multiverse stuff in general, like you're kind of go like, wait, what? Because it's like, okay, so this thing happened and it pulled all these villains from the moment right before their death, but that it pulled the Spider-Man from moments where they were currently were. Mm-hmm. And then you're also pulling from the Venom he got transported, but wasn't it all the people who knew Peter Parker, and so he never knew Peter Parker? Like, none of this shit makes sense at all.
Yeah. They tried their best, but it just doesn't quite come together.
Like, it works for sheer entertainment value, but, people always nitpick, this snap or whatever random bullshit in the MCU. But this is, like, the most ridiculous thing they've ever done.
Sure, yeah.
I think in terms of storytelling. Mm-hmm. I mean, it works, but, like, just barely, if you really think about it.
and I, like, thinking of how this could have played out, there were talks about how they didn't get everybody signed on to kind of do this story, and they had a Kraven the Hunter story kind of in the back ready to go in case they couldn't. And I can see the other movies being, well, how does Spider-Man deal with having his life exposed, and then you have someone like Kraven the Hunter hunting him down because now you know who he is. And it seems like they wrote themselves to that point, and then as they're developing Spider-Man 3, some crazy intern has this idea of like, well, what if we brought all the other ones and did a Spider-Verse sort of thing? And they're like, crap, that's right. Shit. And they're erasing real quick and like, well, how do we undo this thing that we set up with revealing his identity? Magic or something? And a spell goes wrong. And like, oh, okay, yeah, magic you don't really need to explain magic. So yeah, magic does it all.
Yeah, I really would love to be a fly on the wall in the Feige's room, like really discussing this stuff. Is it, because I've seen showrunners talk about like, oh, well, we don't think about the future. We write to a certain point and then we dig ourselves out of that hole because like this is what the story told us to, like, led us to. And so it's like, okay, so the next season will be like them dealing with this. Where this is just like, did they know from the get-go, from the end of Mysterio, we're doing the Spider-Verse thing?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Or was it, we wrote ourselves here, what do we do with this identity thing? And then it just materialized this way.
Which is a shame, because I think having a whole movie, have it be about Spider-Man trying to, fix this whole problem with his identity is a good story on its own.
Yeah.
And then just to kind of wave it away with just like, magic.
That's what I was trying to like get at the beginning of the episode. Is just like, this is a movie here. Like, Spider-Man, identity revealed, how's he going to deal with it, and all that stuff. But it was brushed under the table 20 minutes in, essentially. And then you have, him meeting these other two Spider-Men, and they like, they've had experiences, and they kind of like share some stuff, and they all have their nice moments, and like when they're together it works. But when Aunt May dies, and I don't know, I think you could have had Toby be the old wise Spider-Man and really give him advice, and just bring him out of this hole. And like, they do it a little bit, like they do it just enough to where it works in the movie, but it's stuff that I think really could have benefited if they spent more time with it. Also, I'll just say, I didn't care about Aunt May. I don't think any of the Aunt May stuff worked for me in this movie. It's good that they gave her something to do, but she's been in 4 or 5 of the movies now. But I don't remember any scene that she ever was in the other stuff.
Yeah.
Other than like her finding out Peter was Spider-Man at the end, and her scene with Tony Stark where they're like kind of flirting. I don't remember anything else that Aunt May did throughout this entire series. Like, Tom Holland was good enough when she died, like he sold it for me, but I didn't really care about that relationship just because I don't think they ever did anything with her, and I wish that was more developed.
I really like Marissa Tomei as Aunt May.
No, I like her as Aunt May. I have no problem with her and I don't have no problem with her being the Ben Parker of it and like giving him the line. Any of that stuff, like, that's not on Marissa Tomei. It's just I wish they did anything with her until now. So,
okay. Yeah, well, I don't disagree, but it never really bothered me. I felt like she was there enough to serve her purpose. Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. Let's see. Should we talk about scenes? Should we talk about the villains?
Well, yeah, let's talk about the villains.
Okay. I liked pretty much everyone except Lizard and Sandman because they're just CGI monster men.
Yeah, and
they look like shit. They look really bad. Like, especially Sandman. He looks like the version when he first was in the machine that turned him into it. Like, he's all kind of like puffy and he can't pick up the locket and stuff. He hasn't like defined himself into his muscular form. He just looked like a kid who rolled around in sand. It was really shitty looking.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where I think Marvel really had to like pick their battles. It's like, okay, well, we need to make all the Spider-Man stuff look good, so we'll kind of phone in the Sandman stuff because he is essentially just a brown blob. Like, I get it. You're not going to make him look real. Probably. I don't know, but yeah.
I just don't know why they didn't just turn him back into Thomas Hayden Church.
Because it would have cost more money.
Sure, and I know that's like he did the voice.
I mean, CGI is so expensive, but it's weird that like the CGI is cheaper than just paying this guy to be on set for a while. I guess like
lining up people's schedules in order to have it. But another thing with that, I don't think most of these people ever met each other on set.
Oh, no, of course
everything not. Was shot, reverse shot. People are not in the same scene together unless they are a CG character or they're composited in. But when two people are just talking, they're definitely not acting against each other.
Yeah. Thomas Hayden Church and Reese Iffen
Reese.
No, am I thinking?
Yeah, it's Reese.
Whatever. Reese
Iffens.
Yeah. Like, those two guys came on set one day just to do a green screen, so that's like, here's their physical form. Everything else, they were just in a recording booth. Like, they never saw each other. Which I guess is also a good way to sort of like keep hush down, I guess. But it was just, okay, I don't even think they spoke a line in their real form. So I think it's just like, we're paying you guys for audio, we're not paying you for... Yeah, because like, if you speak a line, we have to pay you more.
I think like the shot of after people have been transformed back into normal human beings, like that had to have been a shot from Spider-Man 3 of Sandman.
It
did not look like a more modern thing. I think they just reused footage.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Yeah, which is fine. It's just weird. Yeah, that you have a character who can look normal at any given time and then just does it.
All right. What about Electro? What did you think of Electro?
Electro was fine. I like that they kind of pointed out, like, why are you good looking now? And I watched a YouTube video and I forgot. Well, I only saw The Amazing Spider-Man 2 the one time, so I forgot like that his electricity like fixed his gap tooth and stuff for some reason or whatever.
Hair.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to do.
Yeah,
but I think Jamie Foxx was fine. He definitely it was cool seeing him take sort of a secondary backseat, but they definitely gave him more screen time, I think, because he was a bigger actor. Like, of all the villains that Spider-Man faced, Electro's the one I'm least interested in. But yeah, I mean, he was good and like had his moments, and
I just don't know why, like, if they're willing to say, oh, the electricity in this dimension is different and it has made me yellow and gave me my body back, why couldn't they do the same thing with the Lizard? Like, that is a well-known, ugly-looking design that people don't like, that doesn't look like the comic version. So why not when the Lizard comes over and he goes like, oh, the oxygen here is so much different, and he starts like mutating more, and like maybe he's getting bigger, his claws get longer, and then he starts growing the snout so we could get a more lizardy lizard. If you're willing to change one because of how bad the design is, why not change the other?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's simply a Sony deal thing where this is how we made him look, this is how you're going to keep him, and it's just like, fuck it. Like,
Electro.
Yeah, but that's a little different because Electro is... I was going to say, Electro isn't like a digital dude. It was cheaper to just keep Jamie Foxx that normal. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like, okay, we can do the yellow electricity shocking all over you instead of putting you in a bald cap and making you translucent. And
I mean, I agree with you. I would have loved to see the more traditional design because I like alligator lizard, not flat-faced lizard. But I mean, I get it. It's whatever. But yeah, it would have been cool to see and maybe we will in the future. Maybe that he'll fight his Dr. Connors and will be the traditional look.
I don't think we're ever going to see any of these villains in Tom Holland's Spider-Man as new versions. I think doing this kind of put a cap on it. Like, how do you do Dr. Octopus again when you've already done him and then done him again in your universe?
Sure, yeah, and
so
I'm fine with that. I was just saying, like, if they did decide to do Lizard, I would hopefully go that route. Yeah,
for sure.
But I mean, we'll skip over the villains again for a second and kind of still talk about villains. Is, you know, at the end you see glimpses of like the people who know Spider-Man in other universe, and you get a more traditional looking Rhino, and I think you see Kraven the Hunter with the spear.
At first I was like, what is M'Baku doing here?
Yeah.
Like, why is he coming through? And then Rhino showed up and was like,
yeah, I didn't get what they were doing at first, and then I was like, okay, and I was like, oh well, man, I wish it was like a DVD or something right now, so I could pause it and see if like anything else.
I'm sure there's a scorpion in there or something.
But yeah, so they kind of teased, oh, maybe we're gonna be doing these in the future, because
I guess
they've done Rhino in what's his face, Amazing Spider-Man 2,
but it's a bad version.
But it's the bad version. So
Amazing Spider-Man just has some bad villains. Like every version of all their villains are awful.
Yeah,
bad Goblin, bad Rhino.
But in terms of what to expect in the future, but clearly they're gonna do Venom.
Yeah.
Which, you know, of course they...
Yeah, why wouldn't they?
Because we've had the bad version and then the okay version, I guess.
Tom Hardy is the okay version?
The okay version. Some people liked that movie.
That's very true.
I didn't see it, so I really don't want to say anything
it is
about
also a bad version.
So...
But, yeah, the whole Venom thing, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why did he transport in the first place? He didn't know who Spider-Man was. He's not a part of any of this. And... So then he transports back and he leaves a little goop behind. Now, is it the same goop from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man? Like they all have like a collective consciousness, and so that one knows who Spider-Man is, so he has this little like kind of deja vu-y thing of like, that guy seems kind of familiar. And to me that whole thing was, you know, Sony and Marvel, they're like, oh, let's bring Venom into the MCU, and so they did it at the end of Venom 2. And then when we got to this point, it was like, well, shit, if he came over with this, he has to kind of go back, and we don't really want to do this. Fuck it, just make him go away. And it just seemed like so pointless. It was like an instant retcon of an idea. Because it was just like 2 months ago that they hyped that he was going to be in there. But I guess like leaving a bit of the symbiote behind is enough. But that just makes him getting the symbiote and fighting Venom in that universe like, I think even more boring than Spider-Man 3 of just a comet comes and lands on the planet out of nowhere. It's like, oh yeah, there's a little drop of a something from another thing or whatever, and we're just going to do the same thing that you've already seen, and I just don't want Venom in this universe at all.
Okay. I wouldn't mind Venom, but I want to... Only because I'd like to see what the MCU would do with it, I guess. So
would you say, like, do an Eddie Brock of this universe? Would you say give it to Flash Thompson because he's been Venom as like Agent Venom, I think? Do you give it to Ned? Do you give it to, you know, MJ or something? Do you do something completely different with it?
I think you do. I mean, it could be Eddie Brock. I mean, I would trust the MCU to do something new and interesting. I don't necessarily know if I need it to be like Ned or MJ or anything like that, but I don't think we need to see him, like, everyone loves the black Spider-Man suit, like it looks cool, but especially after this movie, like seeing Peter like now lose everyone, and this would have been the movie, I guess, for him to like wear the black suit and nearly beat the Goblin to death, because he's the one it's like, I don't need to see rage-filled Tom Holland, because you kind of just gave me rage-filled Tom Holland, and you just, once again, that was a thing that was only lasted a minute, and then you got rid of that. He learned his lesson about rage, so like him donning the Venom wouldn't matter. I
think the only way that it could really work is once he gets it on him, he almost instantly rejects it.
Right.
Like, he's jumping around, and it's like maybe it's a little too violent when it's like grabbing onto things and it's pulling chunks out, and it's just has disregard for everybody around him, and he's like, no, this is not for me, and within the same scene rejects it. Then you go make Venom, but I don't want, just like what you said, I don't need him all rage filled trying to get carjackers.
Or even if he doesn't necessarily reject it in the sense like, oh, I don't need this, you know, the symbiote might go, clearly I can't affect this kid. Like my whole thing is I like am a parasite, but for whatever, like this kid's spirit or whatever bullshit you come up with, he's just like, it's not vibing with me, so he finds someone who is.
Yeah.
And like I like Flash Thompson, I think would make like a fun twist. It's just I don't know if I like that kid.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want to see him and Tom Holland like banter.
Yeah.
Like that he seems, the Flash Thompson of this world seems the most Spider-Man 3 of this universe.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people love Spider-Man 3, and I'm not necessarily shitting on Spider-Man 3. It's just I think Flash Thompson in this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't need to see him dangling anyone over the edge of a building and cackling at Peter Parker.
His fucking hair in this movie.
Oh god, ridiculous. But the one thing I like about Flash in all these movies is he like never gives up, and he thinks he's the coolest fucking person, but he's just constantly shit on all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I like the twist that they gave him. Is like he's not some big giant dude who's like punching Peter all the time because he's a fucking dweeb. Like, no, he's a dweeb too. It's just he thinks he's cool. Yeah. And I like that twist to it. It's just I'm not going to find him menacing, and I want to find Venom menacing. Yeah,
I'd say skip the symbiote. It's not important. You could do other cooler, better things.
I mean, now that they tease it, I don't know how they're not going to do it, but we'll see.
Yeah. So 2 other villains. Green Goblin, I really enjoyed. I like that he got his like purple hoodie.
Yeah, that.
I wish it was more integrated to him on the glider, or it got like shredded somehow, so it looked more like the comic. But it was nice that he had it.
Yeah, it was nice that he had it, and I mean, I think it worked. I mean, it was shredded. It was just they basically just kept the hood, which is fine. I just wish with the hoodie thing, I wish we saw the Goblin face with it.
Yeah, sure.
I get it. But
I kind of like him smashing his own mask and just so we can see the crazy Willem Dafoe face.
Yeah, no, that stuff worked for me, and it wasn't like some big thing. It was just like, oh, it would have been nice to at least have one scene where you saw him full Green Goblin form with the hood on top of it. Yeah. But that helmet is also ridiculous, so it would have been weird to have that. But I don't know, it would have been nice just to see one shot full Green Goblin. Sure. But it's okay.
I like, him having the mask like hanging up on the dumpster was very much like Peter Parker throwing away his Spider-Man suit in Spider-Man 2. Nice.
I'm Green Goblin, no more. That was a terrible impression.
He was good, hamming it up, just having a ball.
Yeah, every time he was on screen, it was just like he seemed like he was having the best time. That reminds me of a thing, but we'll get to it later.
Okay. You want me to write it down?
Yeah, just write down nostalgia ? Steve, or whatever.
And then our last villain, Doc Ock. I love Alfred Molina. I think he's great as Dr. Octopus. He looks weird. He doesn't look bad. He looks de-aged, but he doesn't look like Spider-Man 2, Alfred Molina. He's much rounder. It's like they completely changed his skull shape or something.
Did you see the picture on Reddit where people said he looked like Pierce Hawthorne from Community? And once you see it, you're like, holy shit.
I mean, I'm picturing it right now. It's perfect, yeah.
So, like, it's strange. Like, I thought, like, oh, maybe they just, like, kind of put Chevy Chase's face on there and just kind of move stuff around him. It's like, oh, like, is it or is it not? But it's just like, that's just Alfred Molina's face.
I just, they're on the freeway and he's fighting and he's just like, I'm streets ahead, Spider-Man! And he's like, throws down the freeway.
Next time, invite me to your crap, Spider-Man!
Good stuff.
Watch Community.
Yes, as always, as we say, every 14th episode, or every 7th episode, watch Community.
But yeah, I think I liked Alfred Molina in this, and he was definitely the most prominent villain, I think, and for the most part, all of his stuff worked.
Yeah.
But like that's another movie that I almost kind of it's like, oh, this is the team up movie. Like it would have been cool to see Doc Ock and Peter working together and stuff like that. But really, it was just I'm just the catalyst to like get this story rolling. And
there's a little bit of a team up at the end. And I like that he
showed up.
And,
yeah.
Which I love the like power of the sun in my hand. It's just like Tony Stark's arc reactor. Like, of course, that would be like the most amazing thing. Because it's funny seeing the comparisons of these worlds where normal, like in the first two Spider-Man, normal quote, you know, as normal as you could be with like a giant robot rhino suit. But then they come here and it's like, we've had alien invasions and other dimensional things and gods. And it's just like, it's a much, much bigger and more advanced world than their simple ones. But it's dumb to even nitpick about this, but his tentacles are too damn long. He was reaching out way far. Like, they stretched really far, even without the nanotech added to it. His tentacles aren't that long.
Can I say, I hate nanotech. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, it's cool. Like, I don't have to like wear a fabric face mask. It can just come up and down or like all disappear. Like for Tony Stark, it's sucking into his little arc reactor or like Peter's belt buckle or whatever. Like, it's fine for the suit, but the fact that it took like a chunk and then it was able to coat all of his arms and stuff was. That nanotech doesn't expand, right? It's just it can move around. I guess it's like
instead of being compressed in like the best, most dense thing, you just kind of you spread it as thin as you can.
But it's just
it was only there so Peter can deactivate them. That's it.
Okay,
that's fine.
You could have easily have just like, I mean, it wouldn't be visually interesting, but you could have just as easily just done something where the nanotech infected the tentacles, but now it's like, okay, now your tentacles are red. So, okay, sure, fine.
But besides some tentacle nitpick, I really liked him.
Yeah.
I want to talk about some fight scenes.
Cool.
So Peter has said, like, I'm not going to kill these guys. We're going to bring them all to an apartment and we're going to, like, do some science and stuff, which I think that is maybe the worst section. Okay. It's just weird seeing all these big monster men kind of, like, hanging out in an apartment.
And who are solely working together, which, like, it's a good reason to work together. It's like, so if we don't, we're just going to go back and die. But, yeah, them hanging out, I didn't really care about and seemed silly, and like Flint Marko being there and him being like the normal one I liked, but his big brown goopy body, I was just like, it was just weird that he's just sitting on the couch getting sand everywhere. And then it's like, okay, so we don't have to digitally put two guys in here because it looked like shit. We'll keep one in the van for a while. It's like,
and that's why I was thinking, like, if his like he was mutating and getting bigger and getting stronger, it's like, I don't think this guy could fit through the door. Connors, you're staying in the van. Okay, fine. There, boom. Solved it. Why would the scientist not want to go do science things?
Right.
And if he said, like I'm not going to transform back, and, he was a little more adamant, okay, that makes sense, but it just seemed like, now the CG budget for inside this apartment is already maxed out. We'll have the sand guy, lizard guy, you just hang out in the van. But the fight I want to talk about. This is before like Aunt May dies, which let's just talk about that.
The fight on the bridge.
Yeah, I mean we could go.
You're going. Okay, I
wanted to talk about the fight in the apartment because like Green Goblin's like power bombing him through floors. I love that. All that stuff was
the best fight in the movie by far.
And because it's different. We don't see Spider-Man usually throwing like haymakers and stuff. It's usually swing and I kick and I sweb you up and but this was just like wrestling moves.
Yeah. I mean, I loved him being on top of Goblin and just like punch him in the face and just seemed to like not having effect. And they kind of talked about, and I like that they kind of alluded to it when he was having his talk with Tobey Maguire. It's like I stopped pulling punches, and I believe that's what Tom Holland was doing because like he doesn't know how strong this guy is, so he's just like hitting him normally, and the dude's just like not feeling it, just right through the floor. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, and
I love the like Green Goblin being on top of him, and he like web swings the roof and flips it around, and then like web swings back down. I was like, that's my shit.
They really played the video game and said, how could we do some of these finishers in the movie?
Yeah,
and I loved every moment of it.
Yeah, I love when they do new stuff with the web shooters, and that's one of my favorite thing. And we weren't doing the podcast at the time, but the Winter Soldier, all the Falcon stuff in the show, I thought was great in terms of combat because they like really utilized his wings as opposed to just like flying around and shooting handguns or whatever. Like they did cool shit with his abilities.
Yeah.
So I always like when Spider-Man does Spider-Man shit, not just swing and a kick.
And we're getting to a point where we've kind of done every location, every sort of thing. What do you do next for Spider-Man? How do you keep making his combat more interesting? Because I guess I could have said that last time, but they were really inventive this time. Really liked it.
And it's cool seeing that kind of stuff because I remember being a kid and the coolest shot that I remember from the Spider-Man movies, and it wasn't even like really a combat thing. It was just in Spider-Man 2 when he like is on the ground and he's like he's attached to the train and he's like kind of sliding in between cars. I just thought that was like the coolest looking thing.
Yeah.
And then I liked in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 like Andrew Garfield like either crawling on Lizard like a spider was cool, or when he
Amazing Spider-Man
1, sorry. Or in the fight with Lizard where he's on the side of the building and he like kind of like websuit and then like shoots himself backwards up on top of the roof, just like cool shit like that. Like I want to see more of that stuff
for sure. I kind of wish the final fight wasn't just on this scaffolding of the Statue of Liberty. It's just not that interesting, and it just reminds me of Amazing Spider-Man 1 being on the tower with the lizard gas. It's just,
and I wish it wasn't at night. I think I like when stuff happens during the day. I think it's a little bit more visually interesting. And I'm sure there's logistical CGI. It's like it's easier to sell this kind of stuff at night.
Maybe Electro doesn't look as good in day. Maybe Sandman, it's hard to see all of his particles in day.
I just like all three of the original Spider-Man movies. All the final fights take place at night. All the final fights in The Amazing Spider-Man take place at night. It's just it would have been nice to see like, oh, let's do and they did a final fight in the day with the Mysterio stuff. But I like that was different, and I kind of wish that they did that here too.
Either change the location and keep it at night, or keep the location and put it in day, and they went with two bad choices. What do you think of this new Statue of Liberty?
I like the idea. I don't like that it was instantly just reverted back to normal. Like, it was just kind of like attached to nothing, I guess.
Well, I mean,
they're doing battle and stuff, so I get that it would fall off. It was just, but I mean, I like the idea of like, here's one of the guys who saved the world, who's from New York, who is the symbol of America. I like that they attached his shield to it. Like, I think that's cool. It's just weird. It's like, oh, here's this cool thing, and we kind of instantly got rid of it. But.
I thought it was ugly. I think the shield's too big for the body, and like. Put it on the other arm. Let her keep holding the thing and put it low. But just having this big shield
flame
in the
of
air.
hope and the shield of America or whatever.
I'm not a huge fan, but
she's a lover of words, man. She's a reader, so she's got to be rolling that book.
That's true. But see, it's behind her shield, so she could like peek down and like cheat and read while she's in a fight.
But I agree and maybe that's where it was originally, and they're like, oh.
It doesn't have the same effect.
It doesn't have the same effect or something. I don't know.
But these are the things that I want to see more of. Like, okay, we've had alien invasion and all this like advanced tech come to us. The world should advance as well. So we should be seeing, you change the Statue of Liberty to honor fallen heroes and things like that. I want to see like the world change because of these movies, and it just seems like it's still just the heroes with their holotech cell phones and stuff, and it hasn't really translated into normal world stuff, but whatever. Small nitpick. You want to talk about nostalgia?
So if anyone listened to our what did you think of all the references in this movie? Because there's a billion of them. And okay, well, go ahead.
They don't bother me as much as other things because they're not completely wink and a nod. Like, they're not too in your face. Like,
what are you talking about?
Okay, so you have things like Tobey Maguire's back hurts, and Andrew Garfield cracks his back. Okay, makes sense. He landed on his back in one of the movies. He had back injury in real life. That's a fun callback. Doing the like multiple Spider-Man pointing at each other meme. At first I thought they didn't do it, but then I was like, oh no, when they were in the lab, they're all like pointing at each other when it's like, hey Peter, huh, me, huh, him, huh? And they're all pointing. It's like, okay, little jokes like that I think are fine, but none really made me groan or anything. Okay, throw some at me, maybe I'll remember.
No, it wasn't that anything made me groan. It was just like it felt if they went on Marvel memes and just took a bunch of stuff from that, which is fine because like we like in jokes and all that stuff and being meta. This is the movie to be meta. I'm just watching and thinking like, Ben was giving me a hard time because I thought the Ghostbuster shit wasn't in your face, but literally everything in this movie is in your face. Like there was subtle nods in Ghostbusters, and then there's just like, I'm something of a scientist myself, and I think he said that twice, and then it's like, the power of my son in the palm of my hand. He said that twice. It was just like they're repeating like these like bits that the internet have blown up for a million times.
But I think these are
things
things
all in your face all the time.
They're loved, and they're the things that are known from the movies. Whereas with Ghostbusters, it's just like, hey, look, there's a Crunch Bar in his suit. Remember, he had a Crunch Bar in his suit at one time. But that doesn't add anything. But
at least it's literally a subtle nod because it's not like a huge thing. It's just like, oh, if you're a fan of the movies, you might get this reference. Where this was just like, ha ha.
Yeah, but I think it all works. Like, there's a reason he says I'm somewhat of a scientist myself.
Yeah, it works because you've established this silliness from the get go. Like this whole movie is silly. Sure. It's fun and it works, and I'm not like. It didn't like necessarily take me out of it. It's just I had a feeling you'd be like, I loved everything in this, and I'd be like, you were just talking shit about Ghostbusters.
I think it works better in this than it did in Ghostbusters. I think I
think this is just a better movie than Ghostbusters, so that's why it works.
I do think some of the jokes aren't great. Just like I said before, they don't know when to cut a joke, and it's just like Andrew Garfield shows up for the first time, and he's hanging from the ceiling, and it's just like, oh well, we need more proof. Oh, really? You need more proof than this? And it just keeps going and going. Oh, can you get this cobweb in the corner? And it's just like, the joke was done 10 seconds ago. Stop it.
Yeah.
But they can't resist.
Got to make it funny. Got to bring the kids in.
Yeah.
Because the superheroes won't bring them in.
All right. What about MJ and Ned? I liked them in this.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they had stuff to do.
Yeah, I think what the other ones were missing was Peter really interacting with people, and I like that, a good portion of the Spider-Man movies is Peter Parker like talking with his friends, and he's still doing Spider-Man stuff all the time, but you never really got much with Harry. I feel like in the original, Harry was in all three of them, and he became a big character arc of him being the villain, but he was only kind of friends in the first one. They
were friendly, but then he instantly started dating Mary Jane and created the rift early.
Yeah. And then Amazing Spider-Man 2, like, I loved all the Andrew Emma stuff. I think their chemistry was clearly all over the place in a good way. Yes. I liked him with her at like every scene. It's just all the stuff around their relationship. It was just but like having a group of friends and stuff, I think works for this Spider-Man.
Yeah, and I think MJ and Ned together work really well because they didn't have a ton of scenes together in the other movies. Ned was with, what's her name, Betsy Brandt. In Far From Home, and with Peter mostly in the first one. So I think they worked really good together. Do you think they're going to keep working with Ned having magical powers? You think that's going to...
That really seems to be what they're doing, and I'd be interested to see how they get back there if he doesn't remember.
Oh yeah, that's right. He doesn't remember it, so there's no.
So it's just like there's no. They'd have to like redo it, or the spell's reversed, and because I imagine we'll get to future speculation, but I imagine there'll be a thing where it would just be the spell wears off or something happens and he remembers. It's like, oh yeah, like I guess I can start my wizard training now. It's like.
Or he just happens to run into Doctor Strange,
I guess,
some other way. So, regardless of what you think of Zendaya, am I weird saying that she's the worst thing about these movies? I think Zendaya's Mary Jane, especially in the first one, She grows, she gets better with them, but I think she's the weakest part of all these movies.
Yeah, I didn't love her in the first movie. And I think she was fine. I would say, like, I've warmed up to her by now. Yeah, I think she works well in this world. Just as regular MJ, I don't know. She's fine. Especially over the past couple of years, I've grown to, like, really love Zendaya as an actress. I think the past year or two, the stuff I've seen her in, I'm like, man, she's great.
Yeah.
But just in terms of Spider-Man, she's cool.
Yeah, okay.
I have no real, like, strong objection to her.
I'm very happy that they are doing the nobody remembers Peter Parker, because we can not have to see her anymore. I think...
But we're going to see her.
I don't know. I think, in talking about future speculation stuff...
Well, okay, go on.
I think they'll introduce, like, Black Cat.
Yep, exactly.
And she'll be the big thing. Mm-hmm. And Peter will be like, well, I'll always love MJ, but... And maybe even show him, like, try to hit on her, try to become friends with her again, and let's try to establish a relationship, but maybe he's just kind of beefing it each time. So he's just like, well, I'm never going to be able to have that as what I did before, so I need to move on. And then you introduce Black Cat, and you have someone who's can do some of the things he can do, and hang with the fights and stuff like that. And
yeah, I'm in the same boat as I believe. You know, you get rid of Ned, you get rid of MJ, and then it's about Felicia and Harry. Mm-hmm. Though that's his new crew in this new movie. But I think you're not going to erase Zendaya completely. I think it's the next trilogy. First movie you introduce Black Cat, and then there's the beginnings of flirtation, and then by the second one, they're like full blown like bumping uglies.
Which I had a question going into this. I was like, now that they are officially dating, Spider-Man and MJ hooking up, they gotta be, right? Two beautiful people, but it's like, but they are still considered like young in this. They're
yeah, I mean,
17.
Because really they only dated for a week. Because it was, or not even a week, it was just like his identity was revealed like 3 days after the Mysterio thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so it's like, they didn't really have time to have a relationship. And then at the end of the movie, she says, I love you, which, like, I bought in the sense of the movie, but, like, really they've been together. I mean, you don't know how long a time, but, like, they weren't hanging out when he was, like, with Happy and stuff. So it's just like, when would they would have had the time in this world to,
I mean,
like,
they
really
were in
do
Europe and stuff. They could have done it at least once, but that was still early in the relationship. But when they come back, and even after it's revealed, we still get, like, time of them dealing with the courts and police and stuff like that. So, you know, they're just hanging out on the roof one day reading articles. They probably just got done banging, you know? Probably. But I did like that joke at the beginning where it's like, it kind of sounds like they're getting it on, and he's just like trying to get his suit off or whatever. Yeah. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, that scene worked for me.
Yeah, I think for future movies, that'd be interesting to see like Oscorp show up and Peter going like, uh-oh, this guy's no good. I've met an Osborn, and they're green and goblin-y, and then meets Harry, and I don't know, for whatever reason, you know, with college internship or something, but I think I like the Harry from Amazing Spider-Man 2, where he's been kind of like jet-setting guy, and, you know,
I think it was just miscast, but I like the concept of...
I think he was a fine casting. I think he's in a bad movie. I think those two together make, like, I can see them being best friends. And even they could probably even do something like, wait, Harry Osborn, didn't we go to elementary school together? And like maybe they were friends when they were really, really young, but then his dad pulled him out because of shady business dealings and he had to flee the country, and that's why nobody knows.
I think Harry should be kind of like, you can still have him being like, oh, they knew each other when they were like little, but I think you kind of make Harry more of a bad boy, like, oh, I did some time in like juvie and stuff, and so that's why I haven't been around and everything, you know, because he's just the spoiled rich kid. He's like, fuck you, dad, so he's just always getting in trouble because he knows his dad can like kind of bail him out, so he's been away, and he can still be like cool and have money and, you know, just kind of like, oh, I did some petty crimes, and maybe that's what leads into like Harry has a crime connection, not necessarily like, I'm helping you out, Peter, but just like, I know a guy who will become the villain of the whatever movie, and so it's just like them two becoming, you know, best friends, but, Harry's got a more of a darker side than we've seen previously, where he's just the rich kid of the villain.
And I think you have him dating Black Cat, and she's just like, everybody just thinks she's just some dumb model or whatever, but has gotten involved with him because maybe either she wants to steal from the company, or maybe she works for Fisk and is like a plant, because like say maybe Norman and Kingpin have like crime dealings, like I can help you get your company back up, but you just got to help me launder money or supply me with tech or whatever it is. And maybe Black Cat is a plant so he has ears on the inside. And then like maybe Harry can realize like, oh, my girl and my dad are both working for this like bad dude. I don't want to be a part of that. Like I see what happens when you do the crime. You do the time.
Yeah, I think you make Norman Osborn like a really sweet guy in this new version, and then make Harry just the Goblin, if you wanted to, and just make Harry kind of like the bad dude of this. It's just, you like him so much because he is so charismatic, but I mean, maybe you could do a thing where he gets blasted and he gets a little crazy, and like that's sort of what pushes him over the edge. Or maybe he just like ends up killing his dad because his dad never loved him, or what. You can do a million things, but I think you'd make Harry Green Goblin in this world, and just Norman Osborn is just a dude who like maybe invented the glider and is actually like more of the Doc Ock in Spider-Man games, who was just this sweet mentor figure for Peter, who just happened to turn bad at the end.
Or you could do the mayor thing. Maybe he's running for mayor. And it's not a business thing, and then you still have the connection with Fisk of like, hey man, you're gonna let me get away with all this stuff, and you're not really in power. The Kingpin's in power. You're just a figurehead.
So I don't know if you've thought anything about this, but I've put a little bit of thought in. So we're on the same page of the future as Black Cat and Harry. Do you have any idea who you want to cast as Black Cat and Harry?
Ooh, I know what's her face. She was supposed to be Black Cat. She's Felicia Hardy in Amazing Spider-Man 2. What's her name?
Rogue One.
Yeah.
I think her name might be Felicia in real life. Or am I...
Felicity? No.
Yeah, but whatever. I know who you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like, I think she fits. Like, she's good for that role, but she's probably a bit too old for Tom Holland. So, I mean, my mind always initially goes to Sydney Sweeney.
Oh man, that's what I was gonna say.
But I don't think she's a good enough actress for this. Like, she's good at like vampy and sexy or cute or whatever, but I can't see her being like outsmarting Spider-Man, and I don't know. I
don't think she'd outsmart him or anything. I think and this is coming from someone who doesn't really know the character of Black Cat that well. I just assumed that her overt sexiness, I guess, would just kind of fire off the cylinders in Spider-Man's brain to where he couldn't think properly and just be a dummy. And I think that could lend itself to some comedy and some awkwardness and a interesting relationship, and they're the same age roughly, I think, in real life, and I could.
It's weird. I think Tom Holland is older than Sydney Sweeney.
And I mean, she's playing a high schooler on Euphoria right now, and I like her on Euphoria. And so and you could jump a few years, obviously, and like now they're all college age and everything. So like, I'd buy them in the same world.
I can't see her throwing punches and kicks and like getting into the acrobatics of it. I think she would look weird doing the physical stuff, but
I mean, you train for that kind of stuff.
Right,
so who
yeah,
knows?
I'm sure.
But like, she doesn't really have powers, does she?
I don't think so.
She's just
she's just like Catwoman
thief. Yeah.
She's just Catwoman.
So, but there might be a better casting. It's just that was my first thought, and I was like, I wonder if Ben's gonna have the same thought as me, and you do, and I'm so happy you do.
Well, if anybody else thinks they have perfect casting for Black Cat, aka Felicia Hardy, I guess it's Felicia Hardy, aka the Black Cat, tweet at us.
And do you have any thoughts on Harry? Because I have one, and I'm not sure if I'd love it. It's just I think it could work. I just don't know if Disney would want it to work anymore.
The first thing that popped in my mind was Harry Styles.
Oh, okay.
He's already part of the Eternals and stuff now, but I can see him doing that.
Yeah, Harry Styles is out because of the Eternals.
Yeah.
And I know Tom Holland and Zendaya went around and kind of pitching like Timothée Chalamet as Harry. And I like Timothée Chalamet a lot, and I think he would be great in the MCU. I just think he would want a bigger part. Yeah. Where they would save him for something.
Save him
bigger.
for an X-Men or something like that. Yeah. Something that he has a bigger recurring role.
I mean, I guess if he was just like, no, I want to play a villain, like, give me Harry, and it's like, oh, I'm in the next 3, and maybe I become Goblin, I could see him doing that. Okay. It's like, I can take a back seat and just, I'll eat up all this money so I can go do indie shit, which is fine. He'd be a little bit older than Tom, but I guess if they're in college, it would still work. I just don't know if Disney would want it to work. I was kind of thinking John Boyega, actually. Oh. Because outside of the Star Wars stuff, everything John Boyega's been in that I've seen, I've really liked him. He's a good actor. Star Wars, I think he's gotten a bad rap for, but that's just, I think, more the material. Yeah. I don't have a problem with him in those movies per se. And I think it'd be a good way to just make the character look a little different and do something. I could see him being this really charismatic, handsome guy who like is like cool and fun, but also like can be dangerous. And I just think like he already has a pre-established relationship with Disney. I don't know if he's cool with Disney anymore. Yeah, he said some stuff. But I think he could be fun, and it'd be like two Brits, coming together. And I don't know. I think those two have enough charisma between them to be a fun relationship, and that's who I'd like to.
It's an interesting pick.
Yeah.
The first thing when you said John Boyega, I thought of Mr. Negative. I could see him being a Mr. Negative, but
okay.
But yeah, Harry, that'd be maybe a little too old, but yeah, that's good. I like that. Yeah, just no Finn Wolfhard, Oh
yeah, I could see that too.
Yeah, I don't want that.
No thanks.
Yeah, fuck that kid. I mean, he's a little too young.
Yeah.
But fuck that kid.
I mean, no offense to Mr. Wolfhard, your final Strange Things. It's just Ghostbusters I didn't care about. But anyway, I know we're jumping around, but back to the Matt Murdock stuff and the Kingpin stuff. We now have do you think we'll see all the Defenders and Punisher? I think we'll see John Barenthal as the Punisher again.
I can see them, and it also depends on who wants to come back. I can see Kristen Ritter being like, nah, I'm over it. I don't want to do that anymore. But let's just say everybody wants to come back. I can see them all returning, including all your side characters, your Foggies and your Karens and your...
Oh, Foggy and Karen are definitely back, I think.
I even like Bullseye, but I can see them killing off one and then recasting, and that's Iron Fist. Because anybody could be the Iron Fist. You don't have to be Danny Rand. And since he is awful and he was the worst thing about that show, I could see them killing him off and then make Colleen Wing the Iron Fist. Something like that.
It's funny you bring that up because I was thinking about this earlier because I knew we were going to talk. And I remember I gave Iron Fist a hard time. Now, granted, I don't love that show. And I think Danny was written as like an annoying kind of character, so he wasn't enjoyable to watch. So I'm not really defending the actor or anything, but I remember when that show came out, I was just like, man, I really think this was MCU's chance to like kind of fix some shit. It's like you got a white guy to be like the kung fu master and everything, and it's just like, Danny Rand doesn't need to be white. He just needs to be rich. Like you could have still had the fish out of water character, but he was just an Asian American who like traveled to this world and like got these mystical powers and everything. And like then you could have diversified you didn't need a white guy to do that. And then but now I'm glad that they did, solely because it might have been kind of even weirder if Iron Fist does join the team and now there's 2 kung fu masters on the squad and they both just happen to be Asian.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like because I feel like if you had Iron Fist and Shang-Chi and they're both just kung fu Asian dudes, then it'd be like maybe give the Asian guy a different power set. Make him have Spider-Man power. Not Spider-Man, but you get what I'm saying. Like something else other than we're very good at kung fu.
Yeah.
So I would like to take back what I said about the Iron Fist stuff. It's just like, but
I don't want that dude as Iron Fist anymore. He's a bad actor. He's not good in this role. He needs to be recast. You could, if you have to recast another white guy, sure, go for it. But just get this guy out of here. He's bad.
I don't think they'll recast him. I think they'll bring him back and just kill him off and then just never deal with it.
And just never have anybody else there.
It's like, it's great that you want to include all this stuff, but sometimes it's okay to let the heroes die. And if you're going to let some die, it's probably going to be the people from the Netflix shows you don't care about.
Yeah.
Everyone, you're going to keep Daredevil around because everyone loves Daredevil, but everyone else you can get rid of.
Yeah, I don't think anybody else is that important to any sort of ongoing or future story. Daredevil with Kingpin, yes, but do we need what's his name?
Luke Cage.
Luke Cage. Yeah, do we really need Luke Cage in the MCU?
Yeah. That's all. I just wanted to talk about Iron Fist and if you wanted people to come back and
I'd be for it, but I care more about if they were in Daredevil, then I want them to come back, except for Electra. Keep her dead, and then they'll bring them and they won't mention anything about the series ever. No one's going to talk about the dinosaur or the dragon bones under New York City. No Sigourney Weaver. They'll probably won't even mention the hand. It'll just be like, yep, I'm Daredevil. I've been in Hell's Kitchen. And they're like, oh yeah, I know you. That's it.
Do you remember if they ever mentioned Spider-Man in any of the shows? Where they were just like, oh, that wall-crawling guy or anything like that?
Actually, I think there is one line in one of the earlier seasons of like, oh, we got guys who can fly and guys who could stick to walls, and like that's it, not like swing webs or
wasn't
anything.
it an Ant-Man talk with Michael Pena where he's just like,
I mean maybe, but I thought
and you're just bleeding together.
Yeah, maybe, who knows,
because like their references to the actual MCU are so like subtle that they're barely
the event in New York happened.
They're like barely references at all. But it's just like seeing Wilson Fisk in the Hawkeye show, and there's like Haley Steinfeld has like never heard of the guy who was like all over the news and like everyone was talking about in the show. You never heard of the Kingpin. But once again, that's just a nitpick.
But that could also, she just said like, who's that standing next to my mom? Like that's the guy I was worried about. That's the Kingpin. So maybe she has heard of the Kingpin. She just have never seen him.
Yeah, we haven't seen the next episode.
Figure, like you've heard of your mayor or whatever, but you don't know what your mayor looks like.
But okay. Well, we'll see what happens and how much they, use and whatever. Yeah. But I trust them for the most part, and I'm just happy to see Charlie Cox back because I like him as Daredevil. He's
fantastic.
Is there any other like little things you want to talk about? Because there's two things that I say are my two favorite things about the movie. Okay. That are set on my list. And
we haven't talked about Doctor Strange at all.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about Doctor Strange.
It's like I like the Doctor Strange movie, but it's just one of those like, yeah, it's fine. It's, there's nothing bad about it. It's better than some. But he's always better in other movies. Like when he shows up in Ragnarok, I was excited to see him. When he shows up in Infinity War, I'm excited to see him. And then we see a trailer for like his new movie, and it's like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. I think it'll be helped because he has so many other people in it as well. Yeah. So maybe I'll like it more. But Doctor Strange is just one of those like, yeah, he's really cool when he's just in bits.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, he works better as a supporting character, but I like how his movies work visually, and I like how he's like the magic combat is the most interesting magic combat I think we've ever seen in cinema.
There's like this little part where like Spider-Man's trying to get away, and he shoots his web, and he opens a portal to make him grab his own foot, and so he's just holding himself. Ingenious. Yeah, great stuff.
So I love Doctor Strange. Like his powers and the mirror dimensions and all that stuff, like very visually interesting. And Benedict Cumberbatch is a fantastic actor. Like he's great at just about everything. But like you said, the first Doctor Strange movie is it's a Marvel movie. It's completely fine across the board.
What's better, Ant-Man or Doctor Strange?
Talking about the first one?
Yeah, first Ant-Man versus Doctor Strange.
I'd probably take the first Doctor Strange.
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I like Paul Rudd more than Benedict Cumberbatch, I think, but I think just the sheer visual splendor is more interesting to me than the comedy of Ant-Man. And I don't think Yellow Jacket's all that interesting. I love the train fight and all that stuff.
Yeah. But look at the villain of Doctor Strange. No, Malekith is Thor: The Dark World. What's his name? Oh, what's Mads Mikkelsen's villain's name?
I think I almost said Malekith too.
Yeah, is it
Mads Malekith?
I'll look it up. But it's those are the two movies that people kind of say are the most middling of Marvel. And I was just curious. I think I would pick Ant-Man over Doctor Strange. I think it's just a more fun watch. Anywho, more Doctor Strange stuff.
More Doctor Strange stuff. I liked all the Doctor Strange stuff in this. But to the trailer, the dark, evil Doctor Strange, which could be the is the Doctor Strange from the What If series.
Yeah.
I don't know if I love.
Yeah.
Because either it's the Doctor Strange from the What If universe, which I don't want.
No.
Or it's a totally separate thing, but they're doing a Evil Strange again within a year from the other one.
Yeah.
It's just...
I think
I don't know how I feel about that.
I think it will be a completely separate thing. Obviously they can't expect normal people to watch episode 4 of a random TV show in order to understand this. I think it won't have any of the same plot things. I just think this will be this is just the dimension where you went bad. We won't get any sort of explanation of trying to bring Christine back or anything like that. Sure. We won't necessarily know why he is so bad. It's just nope, this is just your mirror opposite. Or maybe it's not even a dimension thing. Maybe it's a spell thing. We've split you in two and blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
I think from just a teaser trailer perspective, it could easily be this is the thing we'll end on to get everybody hyped. But really, it's only 2 minutes of the movie, and then it's something else entirely.
Whoever the bigger bad is let me throw your doppelganger at you to fight, but that's just a mini boss.
But if it's Doctor Strange versus evil Doctor Strange, I don't know if I want that as a film.
You know who's weird character showing up in Doctor Strange 2? Her name's America Chavez. You see her really briefly. She has a jean jacket with a star on the back, but she's just Hispanic woman who's very strong, and she's just a Captain America type, but she's more street level. I don't know why she's in this movie. It's you have your Doctor Strange and your Scarlet Witch and your Chiwetel Ejiofor, and then this person who punches people in the name of America. Mads Mikkelsen's character is Caecilius.
Caecilius.
Yes. That's some barroom trivia that I would be kicking myself. Oh, cool, there's a Marvel movie question.
I really wonder what my life would be like if I was, between 10 and 15 as these movies are coming out. Because, honestly, most of these movies I've only seen one time, and it's amazing how much information... it's just the internet repeating itself after every movie, so it's just how much information is ingrained in me. But if I really think about it, it's wait, what the fuck is that? Because I haven't seen Doctor Strange since it came out. I don't think so. It's and I still enjoy that movie. I know I like it. I know I like pretty much all this stuff, and I can reference just about all of it. But at the same time, it's what? How is that I remember this much? And it's really a testament to Marvel and the MCU, and just you bastards, we're gonna fucking see your shit.
Yep.
We're all your dirty little sluts who come in and fucking pay you money even though we know it's bad for us.
Yep. Even after I would say the last 3 Marvel movies are not my favorite and are on the lower end. It's just I keep getting slapped around by Marvel, but then here I'm coming back, mouth open saying more, please.
We're
daddy.
all crackheads addicted to we're just just one more Marvel.
Yep.
Just one more Marvel and we'll be okay. But we're chasing that dragon.
Yep. One more thing about Doctor Strange I want to bring up, his collar. Did you notice the collar of his cloak? It was really cheap looking. It you can see the stitches in it. It looked like cosplay, and the fabric looked like grandma's blanket or something. It just, I thought his coat was had a little more pizzazz, and it looked so cheap. And every time it showed Cumberbatch's face, all I could look at was his ugly ass collar. So hopefully they'll fix it next time, but I don't think they do because I think in the trailer it looks kind of the same.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up because I never really thought about it until just now. But you know, in Spider-Man, every movie has like 3 different suits, and like and Captain America, like they're always changing their suits to sell toys and everything. But Doctor Strange, I don't think his costumes ever changed from the first movie. Like we've seen him a bunch of times, and like the first movie, I don't think he didn't have like the gloves.
The gloves, yeah.
And then
that's only in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, where he's wearing the yellow gloves or whatever. But yeah, his costume has never really changed.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that, and you know, maybe in Multiverse of Madness it will change. It's like, because I guess if we have, you know, Dark Strange or whatever, he'd have a different costume. But I'm just surprised he's like, for a guy who can materialize anything, like he wouldn't just be like, I'm thinking more of a yellow today, and just like his whole costume's kind of more.
Yeah, I think probably for him, it like if you looked at all of them, different patterns, different fabrics are used, but the general shape is the same. Like this is the blue section, this is the red section, but what sort of pattern is woven into it and quality of fabrics. But yeah, he pretty much looks the same in all of them.
Which, like, I'm okay with it. Yeah. I don't think every superhero needs a costume change every movie. I'm just surprised they don't do it to sell more toys.
Yeah.
So,
let's talk about Spider-Man suits.
Okay.
I like his inside out suit. I think it looked cool. I mean, it's just a suit inside out and it's black, but it's cool. I like that black suit with the wires and everything. It's pretty interesting. I'm very over the Iron Spider suit.
I hate the Iron Spider
I don't want him to have it anymore. It's ugly. And I'm glad
I've never liked it.
By the end of this, he's like, no more Stark tech, and he's kind of just made his own new suit, and it has a little Maguire, little Garfield in it. It's like, kind of has the color scheme of one and the design of another, but it's like it's way lighter. It's like that blue is very blue, very comic accurate blue.
I was gonna say that two of my 2 favorite things in this movie, him making his own suit that looks more traditional, is one of my favorite moments in the entire movie. And
it shocked me for a second because of how blue it is, because we're so used to this like really dark, rich blue, and this is just so light and vibrant.
I mean, I don't necessarily know if I expect him to have it all that long.
Yeah.
Because his suits changed multiple times in the same movie. But I liked that, you know, he meets the 2 versions of himself, and it's like, okay, I want to be like those guys, and just kind of still makes it his own, but is back to the Spider-Man we know and love. Anything else before I say my other thing?
Oh, no, go.
So I think I am saying the same thing I've seen a lot of people say online is a moment they really, really loved is I loved Andrew Garfield saving MJ. I think that's my favorite moment in the movie, just because Andrew Garfield's so fucking good in that tiny little moment. And it's giving an arc to a character that you don't need to give an arc to. Like they've had movies for arcs, but like just his ability to save the girl that he wasn't able to save in the exact same way. I was just like, this is good stuff. And him like almost crying and everything, and just this real small emotional moment, just so fucking good. And like that's the shit I want to see. It's like you bring these guys in and you still give them character work. It's like I love that shit. Toby, you didn't really do anything with that, but he had more time, and like Andrew didn't really have a satisfying finale, at least as of right now.
Sure.
So like I liked that they gave him that.
And it was nice that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man worked it out with MJ, even though he like backhand the shit out of her and brought a date to her place of work to rub it in her face.
I haven't seen Spider-Man 3 in forever. I forgot he hit MJ.
Yeah, not on purpose. Right. He thought someone else was grabbing him, but like, after all that. And in the part 3 ends with them like hugging and sad that Harry is dead, but it ends on such a sour down note. So it's nice to see that they're like, it's complicated, but we worked it out.
Oh, I said they didn't give anything to Toby. I forgot. I liked that Toby stopped Peter from impaling the Green Goblin with the glider and was like holding it there. I like that. I just wish it wasn't followed up immediately by, well, I'm going to stab you in the back. It just, I think that was also a nice moment, but it wasn't as effective as Andrew Garfield's moment.
And Andrew Garfield saying like he stopped pulling his punches. I mean, this is nerd nitpicky stuff. But even at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2, she dies, the Rhino shows up, and he gives this big speech about like, being positive and doing the Spider-Man thing, and it seems like he's kind of like over it instantly. And then he starts getting sad about it again, starts not pulling his punches. I don't know, it just seemed like they wanted to not leave it on a downer at the end of Spider-Man 2. And like, no, okay, he knows what he has to do now to be a better person, blah blah blah. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I feel I need to talk about. Good to see Jon Favreau again. I don't really care about Happy all that much, but I know him and Marissa Tomei were dating at the end of the second one, or reference to it, or flirted or whatever.
They were having a fling, and,
and
he was thinking it was bigger than it was. And I like that the first thing we see of them is her breaking up with him. Just like, it's just a thing. It was just a little fling. And
but now that Happy is out of it, there's no connection to Iron Man in that way. So it makes sense why they brought him in. But I would not be upset if we never really saw Happy Hogan again. And it's like, he's fine, I like him and all that stuff, but I just don't know if I need him anymore.
I thought there was going to be a joke about, like, because he's in the same scene with Daredevil, and Jon Favreau played Foggy in Daredevil.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, like, he'd be like, I'm sorry, what was your name again? Foggy, Hoggy, Happy, sorry. Something like that.
That would be good. I would have missed it, but that would be good. Or, he does say a Happy, like, oh, you're going to need a good lawyer, and you could have done something, with that. It's like, oh, I knew a lawyer like you once, or something like that. I don't really know.
Yeah. I'm very happy that they have done this nobody knows Spider-Man thing, because you don't know what's coming next. Everything is just up in the air. You can go anywhere with it. You can retcon it if you want. You can move on and do completely crazy things. We don't have connections to Tony Stark really anymore, or the Avengers. It's like they know Spider-Man helped them with this thing, but they just don't know who that Spider-Man is. It's a really good leaping off point for whatever comes next.
Agreed. Even if this movie, I know everyone does love it, but even if you don't, I think the positive from it all is I think it set the stage for good stuff to come. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing what they do there with this new trilogy and whatever other random moments he pops into the MCU. J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah.
Oh,
yeah. When he showed up at the end of Far From Home, it was just like, well, that's cool. Like, who else could play J. Jonah but J. fucking Simmons? But it's still kind of weird that it's like you pulling from all these universes that you established exist, and you said J. Jonah Jameson exists in this world because we want to use him because he's the fucking best, which I get. But it's also kind of weird that you're pulling from these universes where this also was a guy who was in this world, and just makes Toby never sees him, or like you might have seen him on the new. Well, no, because he was in the world and Spider-Man's all over the news and stuff. You would have thought that like Tobey Maguire's character would have seen like, oh yeah, I saw that I'm in some. I know there's another Spider-Man here because I saw the newscast about what's happening or whatever. But like no reference or like never run into J.K. Simmons or anything like that.
Yeah, he could have had some quippy line of like his receding hairline, something like that.
It's just another moment where just like this whole multiverse, another reason this multiverse stuff like doesn't fucking work in this movie, really, if you think about it. But it's cool to have him back, and I hope he shows up more. And
I liked seeing, when he revealed Peter Parker's identity, he was just like in a basement or something, just like on his own green screen, and just lowly. And then later in the movie, he actually has a studio, he has a crew, like he's selling supplements, he's made a name for himself.
Yeah, I like what they've been doing with J. Jonah, because traditionally he's just been the head of a newspaper, but I liked in the Spider-Man game they gave him a podcast, and then in this he's kind of like a Breitbart kind of like
Alex Jones
kind of guy. Like I like that they're taking even these side characters who you could have just made him a newspaper guy, but you're like, no, that's not really the medium anymore. Let's give him something else to do. So it's cool that they're doing that. So I don't think I have anything else. A lot of stuff I liked, a lot of stuff I didn't really care about.
I wouldn't say there's anything I hated.
No, there's nothing I
for sure
hated.
But okay, do you like this better than Far From Home, or is Far From Home better?
Once again, I've only seen each Spider-Man movie one time, so it's hard for me to say. I want to say I like Far From Home better. I think because I just like Jake Gyllenhaal, and I think it works as a singular movie more, and I like that it's Spider-Man outside of New York City. I think and we've been saying for years before Mysterio was even announced, it's like, Mysterio is so fucking cool. Like, he looks like a goober, but in that movie they made it work with his fucking helmet.
And it's like, how do you do his powers without just being smoke and mirrors? It's like, drones and projection. I would have never thought of that.
And I think all that stuff really works and is cool, and I think Far From Home is the best one in this universe.
Really? I think Homecoming is better than Far From
Homecoming
Home.
might. It's just I don't remember Homecoming all that well.
Yeah, I really do like this, but No Way Home is more fun, and hey, look at that, you remember that, nostalgia, where you kind of almost need to do some research before you see this, whereas Far From Home, you could just hop in and it's like, yep, it's just a Spider-Man movie. You may be a little confused about like why Nick Fury turns into an alien at the end, but besides that, it's pretty good standalone. And there's no there's nothing new to this movie. Yeah. It's all just old. So you can look back and go, oh man, Vulture, what a great villain. Love that. Love Mysterio. And
I think I like Adrian Toomes as a villain more than Jake Gyllenhaal, but I like Jake Gyllenhaal's powers way more than Vulture. Okay. It was just, I think, I guess when it comes to like villains or just these movies, I want something visually interesting, like do cool stuff that I've never seen before because you guys have the money and the characters to do wild, crazy stuff.
And Vulture's just kind of like a Green Goblin.
Yeah, just a big green flighty bird guy.
Flighty thing, yeah.
But real quick, it's back to you saying you need to kind of do your research. I saw this with my fiance, who did no research into anything. This movie was so big, and she has the internet, so she knew that Toby and Andrew might show up. But I asked her before, and I was like, do you know anything about that? And she's seen like random spatterings of movies. She saw Endgame and stuff, but she has no real connection to this, and I don't think she ever saw any of the Andrew ones. So it was interesting seeing with someone, and then like I was doing classic, actually, and like I had to explain certain things to her. It's like, who's that? Because she didn't know who Matt Murdock was. And I was like, oh well, that's from the Netflix universe. And but Tom Hardy at the end, like, well, that's Venom, but Venom was actually in a separate thing, completely opposite from the end. So it was just like this whole thing where it's just like trying to explain this movie to someone who's like doesn't care about superhero movies or like doesn't really see all that much must be a fucking chore, which every nerd is happy to explain. But at the same time, it was kind of fun seeing it with someone who like just wasn't all that interested. She enjoyed it, she liked it, and there was even parts where she was like tearing up and everything. So the emotion and all that. She's a very kind, empathetic person where I am not. So there was stuff in this that clearly worked for her, but it's always fun to see someone just like not know shit and then like see it through their eyes. So that's cool. Yeah,
I was asking my roommate if she had seen all the other Spider-Men, and she had seen all the Tobey Maguire and wasn't sure about Andrew Garfield, but when I explained some things, she's like, oh yeah, I've seen those. But she hadn't seen any of the Tom Holland ones, just except for, me watch it on
I probably TBS. Went to both Andrew Garfield ones with her.
Oh, yeah, probably. And so just because she was going to go see it one day with her boyfriend, but all the shows are sold out, so they went and saw Nightmare Alley. And it's like, really? Would you want to watch this without seeing the other ones? She's like, well, do I really need to? I'm like, well, like, you'll understand certain references and stuff, but if you haven't seen I think the last Spider-Man movie, it starts off a little... They do enough to explain to you and get you caught up, but it really just starts off right where the last one left off, and I think that one would be a little important. You probably don't have to see Homecoming.
No, I don't even really think you need... Like, you have everything you need to watch this movie with nothing else and go like, okay, I understand what's happening, but it's just enhanced if you've seen the other stuff. But it works well enough to where it's like, you don't really need to... you don't even need to really see the Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield ones, because you know, like, okay, these villains are from their universes. These guys played Spider-Man before. I get it.
You may not know exactly whose villain had what or whatever, but yeah, I guess I just don't think you're going to get as much out of it.
Oh, but
for sure.
Of course, no.
But if I could go back in time and erase my memory, or just erase my memory and go see it again, I would love to do that and just shit myself seeing all these things come together.
It is cool. And I mean, in terms of best Spider-Man movies, I think it's still Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And it's interesting that they're doing a Spider-Verse again after an Oscar-winning, so beloved Spider-Man movie.
I thought it didn't win the Oscar.
I'm pretty sure
for animated.
Yeah, I think it won Best Picture.
Okay. Well, good.
I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it did. Anyway, because that movie is fucking awesome, and you know it. But it'd be interesting to see. It's surprising that they did this, but I'm glad that they did, because it's just so cool that you got real humans. It's one thing to do it animated, where of course you can have Spider-Ham in there, but after seeing that, it was just like so fantastic. It's like, oh well, I know this isn't going to be as good as that. Maybe that was part of it too.
Could be. But it's nice, like you can do Spider-Verse in its own way. Like you could do, we're going to do crazy dimensional stuff where we're pulling out spider hands and robot spiders and stuff like that, whereas this one's like, well, we're only gonna focus on other live action movies.
And I think they did kind of reference Miles in this
movie
a
little joke from Jamie Foxx,
which was cool, and it's like, okay, I see what you're doing. And I know we have that to look forward to, and maybe that is part of this new trilogy, is Spider-Man kind of passing on the torch, or you do kind of what the game thing is like, okay, I've been Spider-Man for a little bit, let me show you the ropes, kid, and maybe we'll have a Tom Holland and whoever they get to play Miles team-up movie down the line. Miles has never been bigger than he is right now.
Yeah.
His movie and the game and everything. So
like you got to save that for 6, like Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
6.
I don't think they're in any rush.
Yeah. Unless, hey, what if they wanted to do black suit on Miles? And Toby has to be like, look, kid, you're new to this. You're letting
Miles
it get
has
to
to
you.
Rage. Okay, yeah,
maybe that.
Okay.
And then so he then uses the black.
It's not, I was gonna say, it's not super interesting to have a black costume normally and then get another black costume on a black character.
Say like he just has this cheapo suit that kind of looks like Toby. Yeah. It turns black, and then he's inspired by that to make his own suit
to make his new one.
Yeah.
I know the traditional Spider-Man suit, is the black one, but like the one with the hood's way cooler.
Oh
like,
yeah,
the Into Spider, like that's the one I want to see more than just his traditional, which is traditional one I like too. Like honestly, playing the video game, all of his suits are so fucking cool.
Yeah, I mean, except for like blue flaming skulls and stuff like that, and
well, that one was just the Peter Parker one. I'm talking about the Miles suits.
Oh yeah.
The Miles suits are all great.
Yeah.
There's some not great ones for Peter that I don't love
like
at all.
The paper bag head one.
The Fantastic Four paper bag one, yeah.
Stupid.
The negative one where it's light blue shiny one. I don't care about that one either. There's some bad ones, but all the Miles ones are fucking awesome.
Yeah, really cool.
So we know we're going to see Miles one day. It's inevitable.
It's inevitable.
We're going to get it, but yeah,
definitely.
I'm fine with them taking their time.
Yeah,
if he's just introducing the third one and Peter dies or moves on, or he becomes the leader of the Young Avengers, and and Miles is doing whatever.
Yeah, that'd be cool. For you wait some time and Peter is just like, I need to.
I'm Spider-Man, no more.
I've done it all I can for you, Miles. You take to the streets. Yeah. You're New York Spider-Man. I'm gonna become the man in the chair. I'm gonna be the trainer guy.
Yeah, maybe Peter loses his powers, or like Zendaya does remember, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go be with MJ. I can't be with MJ. I can't lead this double life. I'm gonna go be with her, and just like you said, be the guy in the chair, and then Miles is Spider-Man.
Yeah. Do you think they'll do Ned as Hobgoblin? Because Ned became Hobgoblin at one time. He was like the third Hobgoblin.
Honestly, I wasn't quite sure if Ned was made up for this movie or was an actual character. But he was an actual character in the comics.
That's what I'm seeing, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he was necessarily like Spider-Man's friend, but I don't know. Actually,
they just did a different thing.
Yeah.
Instead of Harry. I just think that actor is just kind of like too adorable to really be Hobgoblin. I could see him becoming a wizard because he's a dork, and of course he'd be like into magic, and they've clearly set it up that way if they want to go that way. I don't want to see him be Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
If make Harry just don't need to do the Hobgoblin. No one really gives a shit about Hobgoblin. Just make him Green Goblin and whatever.
Yeah. I would like to see Ned and Wong like just hanging out and having Wong take him to like the fights in Japan or wherever it was, China. I could just see Wong taking Ned under his wing.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that we breezed over that. It's just like Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme on a technicality. And I was like, I mean, that's fun, but it's just like Wong seems to like barely have any interest in being a wizard, and he is now the supreme overlord of wizards.
Yep.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I mean, I gotta say, like, everyone, it seems, online really loves Wong, but the dude's in every movie like 60 seconds. And like he's the most underused actor that everyone's just like, Wong's the shit. It's like, I mean, I guess if you come in, do one cool line, walk out, like, great. But like, Wong does nothing.
Yeah.
But that's kind of his thing, and I kind of like it.
Yeah. I'm envious that I would love to have a role like that.
Yeah, I'm in the biggest movie multiple of the biggest movies of all time. And I show up,
wave my hands around.
I show up for 2 days of shooting, go home. It's the best.
Yep. Whew. Okay. Well, anything else you need to say about Spider-Man No Way Home?
No, I think we covered it. We talked in length.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of covered everything. I don't think there's anything we really missed. It mostly overall positive experience.
Yep. I mean, I said I gave it a B+. What grading would you give?
Like I said earlier, to be fair, I really want to watch it again without distractions and just try and like get the magic and everything of it. But B. Okay. That's the thing. It's just like 90% of the Marvel movies for me are B's. Just across
the board. Unless it's Eternals. Best movie ever.
I never said that. I just said I really enjoyed it.
You said it was the best Marvel movie, your favorite Marvel movie.
That's true.
All right, well, I guess that's it. Steve, you want to take us home?
Nope.
Okay.
If you want to message us, you can contact us on Twitter at WRPL Podcast, or send us an email at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com for any questions, queries, comments, concerns. I'm your super handsome host and future Spider-Man in this universe, Steve.
My name's Ben. Bye.